Welcome to the Coherent Leadership Podcast. This is episode 4 in our 7-part Ethical Founders series. I'm your host, Jemima House. This episode, I want to talk about authority anchored to capability and dismantling the illusion of hierarchy. While we are watching the collapse of the pyramid structure that has dominated organisations and businesses for generations, it starts to become quite clear that we need to understand why it's failing, because that gives us the answer as to what needs to replace it. So we need to get our heads round the fundamental design flaws. If you look closely at any traditional hierarchy, you will find something that everybody in that organisation knows about, but they don't talk about. And it might be because it's really hard to articulate. That might be part of the reason. And the thing is the inverse relationship between rank and actual capability. Now, I'm sure that you will have an example of this. Somebody you know who is in a position that they don't deserve. In a hierarchical system, people rise up through politics, tenure, charm, or maybe even compliance, and they accumulate a higher rank or title or oversight whilst remaining fundamentally unequipped for the realities of managing humans. We've all seen it. Because in order to manage humans well and meaningfully, you have to have a fairly high level of self-awareness and humility, not just a business qualification. What's happened is we've built systems where many individuals holding the highest responsibility lack the foundational capabilities required to navigate nuance, to hold space under pressure, or maybe even to execute with precision. And this is probably the core of this whole series, because this whole episode explains why we need a circular system. Lots of people who occupy positions of power or authority are missing basic, highly practical human capabilities. So they're expected to steer the complexities of the business, yet they lack the self-governance and the foundational mastery required to manage themselves. I mean, when you put it like that, it kind of slaps you in the face, doesn't it? If somebody doesn't know how to regulate their own nervous system under stress, or how to listen properly without ego, or how to process feedback without getting defensive, do they have what is required to manage a collective? I'm going to say no. This capability deficit creates such a massive friction. It contributes to burnout. It contributes to a real fragility in any organisation or business. When the rank doesn't match the competence, you've got a massive problem. And these are just a few of them. So stalled decisions, erosion of trust, loads and loads of human energy used up, propping up basically egos or people who just don't possess the skills for the positions they inhabit. The pyramid is crumbling because it was built for control. And you can see this so easily if you look at how military organisations operate. You've got to have somebody in charge. But this does not fit with the time that we live in, because control is the weakest glue for holding people together. When you force people to be, obedient to a title rather than a capability, you're literally inviting resentment. Certainly disengagement, at the least. To understand why it happens, we've got to look at how the pyramid trains people to survive. So in a top-down system, survival depends on compliance, playing politics, protecting your turf. Real capability, self-awareness, emotional regulation, and deep systemic competence are all optional in a pyramid system. And again, when you say that out loud, it's quite shocking. It really is. And let alone optional, sometimes they're straight out penalised because they threaten the status quo of the people sitting above you. The higher that you climb in a pyramid, the further away you get from the actual work that's being done, and the more insulated you are from the reality of that work. Honestly, saying it out loud, even hearing myself say it, just gives me even more certainty that this circular system is our way forwards, rather than this echo chamber of, I'm going to call it institutional delusion. The old model is broken. So having treated leadership as a reward for length of service, endurance, hard work, it suddenly becomes clear that actually leadership ought to be an expression of capability. When you're promoting people based on how long they've worked somewhere or how well they can manage the politics, it comes as no surprise that the whole organisation struggles then to adapt to change. I think probably the main thing is creating a whole load of people who make really important decisions within companies who are completely insulated from the consequences of their own poor judgment, leaving everyone else to pick up the pieces. That's the real dysfunction. And that's what makes people mad, sad, leave, all those things. So in terms of human psychology, the pyramid model is really taxing on the humans who are a part of it. It's been so long that we've been using it. We've just normalised this environment where individuals spend loads of their cognitive bandwidth managing office politics, protecting their position, second-guessing arbitrary edicts that come from above. It's not leadership. It's basically institutionalized anxiety. And we wonder why we have a mental health crisis. So when authority is completely untethered from actual skill, people learn really quickly that competence is out of the equation. It's secondary to compliance. Basically, like, do as you're told. Don't do as I do, do as I say. And those of us who know anything about having children know that this is not a recommended approach. It doesn't work. And when you're in the workplace, really, it's no different. Having people who nod at the right time, who stick to whatever the general consensus is, and who suppress what they really think is an absolute recipe for disaster. The contrast of this to a circular system is so huge. And one of the main tenets of a circular system, one of the main benefits is that it invites a profound sense of psychological safety. And when you understand how humans work, you understand just how important that is. When your place in the collective is appreciated and it's validated by what you're capable of and how well you can look after your own state, then it becomes this given that people no longer need to posture, because truth replaces pretense. They don't need to protect their territory or hoard information, because value is generated through contribution rather than extraction. It's wild when, like, just to say it out loud, it's so crazy to me that we've been doing this for so long and we just keep doing it. The antidote to all of it is not patching up the pyramid. Oh my God, no. Which is something you do see a lot of companies do, adding more oversight, putting people through different seminars and trainings, like that's going to help. It's patch up at best. What we need is actually an entirely different structural design. We need a circular operating system where the foundational principle is absolute. Authority must be anchored directly to capability, and the organising principles are the values of the company and ease. When you link authority to capability, everything changes. You instantly dismantle the illusion of hierarchy. Power is no longer something that you hoard by virtue of a title or because you have spent so many years at a particular company. It actually becomes a dynamic. It becomes a living function of what you're capable of delivering in real time. So when decision making aligns with competence, you suddenly get rid of the stuck places that are caused by unqualified oversight or political shape-shifting. Think about what happens in a system where rank equals skill. Energy shifts towards actual mastery, self-awareness and real-world execution. Yeah, tongue-tied. Which, the core of it means that the people who are best suited to handle a specific thing are naturally given the authority to lead that, regardless of where they sat in an old org chart authority flows to where competence lives. That means the entire nature of responsibility shifts. So you don't have people hiding behind job descriptions or masking their inadequacies. Accountability becomes real because your influence is directly tethered to your competence. If you've got the skill to resolve a crisis, then you lead the room. If you don't, you step back and you support the person who does. Imagine that. Wow. This shift changes the entire psychological contract of work. In a pyramid, people look up sometimes with resentment, sometimes with resignation, because the person making the decisions may or may not have the skill that matches the people who are actually doing the work. In a circular system, you just can't get away with that, because decision making is anchored to capability. So that disconnect dissolves. Respect is earned through mastery. It's not assigned because of position. And trust becomes the default. A, because you've got such a profound sense of psychological safety, and B, because the people holding the authority have proven their capacity to hold it, so you have evidence. When we sit back and look at the macro picture, this transformation becomes undeniable. We move from an architecture of extraction to an architecture of contribution. Anyway, I have talked for long enough. These are meant to be 10-minute episodes. Basically, we cannot fix a failing structure with the same thinking that built it. We just can't do it. The pyramid is designed to concentrate power while diluting capability, and that model has reached its absolute limit. So the future belongs to a system built on structural truth, where competence and alignment are the only currencies that matter, and where authority belongs exclusively to those who are genuinely capable of holding it. Imagine that. Wow. Check out the show notes to have a look at the full description of the circular model on the website. Have fun. See you tomorrow.